I'm out here in my very front garden. It's also what we call the wildflower garden because it's where all of these wildflowers are. It is one of my favorite spaces, absolutely, out here. But the reason I'm out here is because this fennel that I've been growing for, 2 years now, once again has bulbed up pretty nicely. And this is the Florance Fennel, the bulbing type. And look at how many bulbs are in here. I mean, that's insane. You know, before I started growing fennel, I was under the impression that it had to be grown by itself, that it would kill any other plant around it, and that it only created one bulb and that was it. But this plant has been living proof within my garden that that is not true. And look at the sheer size of this bulb. I mean, it's as big as my hand. I can't tell you how many videos over the last year and a half I've posted about harvesting fennel from my garden from this one bulb. I really need to go back, watch them all, and count how many bulbs we've harvested off just this fennel. So what I'm doing now is, in order to get it to bulb, I bury the fennel up a little bit and then it swells. So what I'm going to do now is dig it down to where this little root is right here. There's actually, I don't know if you can really see it. It's the color of our mulch though. But right here, there's a root. And what I'm going to do is take my shears. You could use a knife or anything of that nature. Scissors probably won't work because unless they're meat scissors, look at this. I got the fern part stuck in the shears. It's just because this root is so thick. And that's why meat scissors would probably be the only scissors that would work. Man, I'm struggling to cut through it with these prunes and these pruning shears. Now look at the size of this bulb. I mean, it's absolutely massive. That is huge. That is a lot of fennel. Look at this plant. Isn't that crazy? That's how massive this fennel is. I'm really impressed by the size of this. And the entire fennel plant is edible. It smells like anise or sweet licorice. So good. It's so sweet. And look, see this bulb that's left behind right here? If I bury it like this, it will bulb out. And then right down here where the root is of this plant. So this is the plant. The root was attached. They're all coming from the same rooting system. And so all I have to do now, this bulb's actually pretty big too, is kind of do the same thing here. Dig down, move the dirt a little bit. Ooh, my finger's in the way again. And come here and cut this root also. Let's see if I'm actually getting through that root. I'm not, because it looks like the root's kind of over here some. Oh man, I can hear it is a little tricky to cut through there. So here's the second one. So look at those. That's incredible. A lot, isn't it? Here's some more roots off this plant. Or not roots, some more ferns. And then look, this bulb's actually pretty much not quite as big, but it looks like it's pretty done too. Another way you can do this is just kind of twist it out, which I didn't want to do too much just because, well, those bigger ones, all these smaller bulbs, it might twist out some of the roots. So here's a smaller one, and look at that compared to the other one. Those are some massive, massive bulbs. And then look, here's a better idea of here's from where I've cut before that's kind of dried up. And look at this root system. So you can kind of see how many times I've cut already. All of the old wood that's dried where I cut. And on these bulbs, so there's still several, look, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then this one makes 5 bulbs attached to this. And so what I'm going to do is move this away. Move all the plants, even the wildflowers, getting a little close so you can see a little better. And all the soil and leaf debris. Look at that. I'm just going to hill it up around all of these ferns. And that's going to block out some of the light and cause them to swell and produce more fennel bulbs. Isn't that amazing? And look, here are the fennel bulbs that I planted, transplanted. And these are the seeds that hit the ground in our soil beds and created new plants. So I dug those up and I moved them here. And there's another one right down here. And this one's surrounded the grapevine, the flowers. You can see they're all growing, all the buttercups. We have some of these wildflowers growing. They're pretty. And the grapevine. And the fennel's not killing them. So you can kind of see how that narrative that fennel will kill any plant surrounding it, and that's hard to grow things around it, is just not true, because look at all this growth right here. I mean, we have a muscadine, all these beautiful wildflowers. They're just growing like that fennel's not even there. And it's pretty incredible to watch. So that's the big fennel right there. There used to be another big fennel in this area, but it just finally gave out last winter. We harvested the last bulb of it, and it was the same age as this one, so about 2 years. And this one's still going strong. But look at all of these were produced by that other fennel that was here, and by this fennel. So these are all different plants that are kind of starting to bulb. You can see this one right here. And I'm just gonna do the same thing. Anywhere where there's a fennel that I want to bulb up, I just push soil, hill it up around that fennel. And that's all you have to do. And there are tons of fennel. So I've said it before, one fennel plant can make all the difference. And look, one's even down here growing inside of this new bed. And there's one right in here, a couple of them, and then one that's getting pretty close to harvesting. It's actually growing in the pathway, and you can see where it's created a second and third little bulb right here, these two. And so this is in the pathway, and I haven't messed with it, but I really probably do need to pull it out. See, there are other plants that have made their way over here too. Ooh, that actually hurt pretty good. I don't know what that was that just stabbed me. Actually, I think it was a wood chip, but it got me pretty good when I was moving these plants around. Oh, look at these weeds growing around these fennel. Oh my gosh, took out a huge chunk of the pathway. Look at those roots. That's insane. If this was in the pathway, it'd be different. It's probably one of the plants from the wildflower seed mix, but look at this. Mom. Sweet basil was hidden underneath it. So my boys actually came out to talk to me, and I had to pause the video and stop recording in order to talk to them. And during that time period while they were talking, I also went ahead and took the plants that I pulled up here out to the geese. And so you can see how the wood chips over here on this part of the garden have broken down to create soil. And then where the wildflowers are reseeding over here, this needs to be cut back, pulled out, or cut back so that it doesn't become like our garden bed, because you see it's kind of taking over the pathway a bit. And so here's all this kind of taken over in here, and this is the newest part of the pathway that we laid down. You can see, because it's really warm, all of these plants are seeding out here. And it turns out most of our basil has seeded out in the middle of the pathway. I might leave some of those just because my daughter isn't moving her wheelchair out here very much. She's not this far out of the yard. But if she was old enough to really move out all the way at the end of the yard, closer to the road, then I would be really concerned about the plants getting too big in the pathway. When she's older, nothing will be allowed to grow in this pathway whatsoever. It just won't be possible for her mobility and have her freedom of movement if things are blocking her way. So that's just what's going on with the fennel. That doesn't include everything else. I mean, look at all of this. It's insane. And yes, there are dandelions growing in here. My son loves dandelions. This is his garden. They have a lot of really amazing uses, including jellies and teas. So we definitely just leave those. And they help repair the soil. The cool thing about plants that we look at as weeds, they kind of signal to us and let us know what soil needs as far as amendments are concerned. Look at this little chamomile. I can't believe that it reseeded. That's amazing. I knew that chamomile readily reseeds, but I hadn't seen any yet. So it's cool to kind of spy one or two. I see another one down there in the garden over here by where all these fennel are growing. It's amazing what can grow in the wildflower garden and how readily everything reseeds itself. That's why some people really hate buttercups, which is the common name for these little flowers. Because the pollen in the middle, when you get it on you, it actually looks like butter. The color is like butter on your nose and things. So this is just absolutely incredible. There's another fennel right there. So we can use all of these ferns to make a licorice type candy by cooking them in a sugar syrup. Just a basic sugar and water mix that you bring to boil and boil these in. It makes them sweet, but you have to boil them rapidly to keep that licorice flavor. Fennel that's just boiled in regular water will lose its flavor and just have the texture of cooked celery without any flavor whatsoever, which is fine when I want to make it for use as a filler for our family and my husband who doesn't like licorice. That's kind of a nice way to do it. But realistically, we have so much coming in from the garden right now. We're not really using the fennel very much at all. I've been feeding it to the ducks and geese as I harvest it, just because there's so much food in our kitchen coming from the garden right now. And also, I still have fennel, dehydrated fennel on my shelf from last garden season, last fall. So I just don't see the point in using more and more fennel that we're not going to use anytime soon, whereas I can use it to feed my ducks and geese. And I know I say this quite often, it allows us to get eggs that are more nutrient dense, but it's a great treat for them. I absolutely don't mind growing food to supplement our birds, and actually I highly recommend if anyone has additional food to use it to supplement any poultry or rabbits, any kind of animals that you have that can eat those things. The amount of food available here is pretty incredible. So that's really lovely. Now, let me go ahead and show you guys why I'm out here. I could do this using my knife or scissors inside the house, but because I have my gardening shears, my pruning shears, I'm going to just show you how I would clip them if I was going to eat them. Now, remind you, every part of this is edible. The stalks are my favorite part to use to make those licorice flavored candies or to cook down for soups and stews. The ferns make an excellent tea when dehydrated, and you can also powder them after you dehydrate them. I imagine that they freeze dry well also. And then the bulbs are great for cooking, sauteing, things of that nature. And like I said, when it's cooked in anything other than a sugar syrup, it often loses that licorice flavor. So if that's something you don't like, don't worry, you can cook it out of them. But all we do when we're going to use this bulb is we cut these ferns off. All these stalks. Just cut them right on off. And just like that, you have a massive softball-sized licorice bulb. And same for this, is a significantly smaller bulb. I'm going to do the same thing. There's two of them, and then with this third one, look at that. Another bulb. Just like that. 3 nice sized fennel bulbs from our garden. Isn't that amazing? And then all of these greens I'm actually gonna gather up because I have enough ferns for my tea. No one else likes the licorice flavored tea, and so there's no point in me saving it because it's gonna be there for way too long. So here are geese here. I'm gonna walk over to the other side to throw it over because this top side has the net across it, and that's why I can grow vining plants or squash, anything of that nature, and it covers the coop. Originally that was for our purple possum passion fruit, but unfortunately it did not make it through this year's freeze, which it's usually warm enough here that it will make it. It did not. Hey guys, come on, let's go to the other side. So let's see if they follow me over, which I think they are. There's some of the weeds from earlier, the ones I said that I brought over. Yep, look, here they're following me over to this side. I'm just gonna toss these over the top to them. Oh, I'm sorry guys, I accidentally hit Dorian with the ferns, poor guy. Let me get a little closer so you can see through this fence. Look at that. Geese have teeth in their mouth. Unlike ducks, they have teeth on their tongues, believe it or not. It's a little terrifying. If you're interested in seeing more about that, I've never actually been able to get video of their teeth, but Morgan Gold from Goldshaw Farms actually has some videos and even some pictures showcasing the introduction of the videos. Those pictures you upload on YouTube when you upload a video. They also show, some of them show his geese with their teeth. And it's pretty interesting. It's pretty cool that he was able to get a photo of their mouths open. And I've never been able to do that, so I've always been fascinated when people are. So you can see, because of those teeth, they're able to really grind up all of the plants very easily. Geese can very easily eat about 30% of their body weight per day, so it's pretty cool to watch them eat in all the plants. It really makes it nice to be able to use primarily plant matter around the yard from our garden, our grass, plants that are just in the way when we're weeding, any of that. Instead of composting it, feed what we need to our animals to get them completely full. It makes a big difference, and it keeps us from having to use a lot of supplemental feed such as grains. I mean, we still do feed grain, but not nearly as much as we used to. This makes all the difference in the world, and you can see just how much they love it. If you're seeing the black wire, know that's just the fence that's right in front of them. You can see they're choosing the fennel over everything else. Oops, it's getting a little blurry. This one closest to me is actually one of the youngest geese. It's 3 months old. And the ones directly behind that is his sisters. And we believe the one closest to me is a gander, a baby male geese, and the two behind it are females. So they'll become laying hens in December or next year. So I have 3 hens and 2 ganders, which is pretty incredible. I'm excited for that. So I think this is a pretty fun example and a very solid example of how all of the plants on our homestead really contribute, even the ones that are just nice and pretty, to everyone. They give nutrition to our birds and also to us, which is incredible. And Ebden geese are an excellent meat source. So if you're wanting to raise meat and have a bird that can mostly survive off of greens and grass and things of that nature, these are your best option. And bonus is that here where we live, we have grass all but a month out of the year. The grass is active and not dormant. So, and that's usually around January, February, so maybe 2 months maximum. And then the grass grows all the way through December, and it starts growing again heavily in March, where we're having to mow about the end of March, early April. We're having to mow once a week. It grows so fast. So that's pretty much it. I just wanted to show you me harvesting the fennel and giving the geese a taste of it. They're probably full because they got a ton of turnips this morning from the garden, and even all their greenery from some carrots that we harvested. And I'll also throw berries and things like that over here from the garden. as a treat. So they're getting so much. I've been weeding the garden and the pathways, so they're also have been eating this. So this will also start to feed them tomorrow as well. Yeah, you might be surprised how much they eat and how often. But if you do this well, I mean, you can really feed your animals for long periods of time with just things that you grow. So thank you guys for kind of hanging out with me and watching me harvest some fennel. I hope you guys learned a little bit about that and then get to see the geese enjoy some of the food themselves.